Have you ever noticed that every once in a while when the Scooby Gang deal with a vampire, they also have a musical element to it? No? Well, let me help you. We got Legend of the Vampire, Vampire Strikes Back, and Music of the Vampire. They all have vampires and music. 2 of them have the Hex Girls, but all 3 of them have a little glimpse of what the original concept was to be. Now, I'll talk about more episodes of that glimpse of the original concept in a few months. But right now, we are going to talk about vampires and music in Scooby-Doo. Starting off with Legend of the Vampire. The movie starts off with a couple shots of the Australia area and Vampire Rock, where a stage is being set up for a music festival. We meet our side characters, Daniel and Grandpa Malcolm, who talk about it not being a great idea. One of the performers performs as the Yowie appears and sends out his vampires and capture the performer. The grandfather says, "The vampire legend is true." Then it goes into our title card and intro. The gang are on a boat catching creatures similar to the episode Where's the Crew? Also, a new version of What's New Scooby-Doo. The gang hang out around the ship after catching those creatures. Scooby boomerangs Shaggy's sandwich to himself, and Velma points out the Sydney Harbor to everyone. They get off the boat with the Mystery Machine. See, he really is the 6th member of the gang, because he even goes on vacation with them. On the road, Velma reads off a fact about Australia. Shaggy's got food covered. They go sightseeing on top of the Sydney Bridge. They spot the Opera House and Bondi Beach. On the beach, Fred grills, Velma reads, Daphne tans, and the boys surf. Fred gets jealous after 2 lifeguards check out Daphne. Boys get attacked by a shark. That shark scares off the lifeguards, and then Scooby's tail gets snapped by a crab. Velma offers up the idea of
how do you guys feel about exploring the outback?
But Shaggy doesn't want to go because it's boring. But Fred points out the music festival poster to try to win him over. But it doesn't really go well because it's vampires and it's on Vampire Rock. But of course, they really get won over after hearing concessions. Back at Vampire Rock, we get the rules from a new side character, Russell.
The rules of the contest are very simple. It's for unsigned bands. No one can enter more than once, and as I've told you again and again, each contestant only gets 3 minutes.
Jasper, another side character, gets turned down with his band, the Bad Omens. He hangs up a poster of the Wild Wind, who look kind of familiar. Jasper drives off with his band. Daniel joins Russell and talks about the Wild Wind's disappearance and last night's attack. Back with the gang, the boys play themselves in a game, which could be a connection to Cyber Chase. Time for a montage moment of all the life in Australia. They make it to Vampire Rock, and Velma gives us the reason of the name. After the doors open the wrong way, the gang take a look around. Scooby spots eyes and smoke. The Yowie appears, and Scooby shows Shaggy. It goes away after the boys run by the others. They finally find the concert area as our favorite vampire band sings. V asks,
Have you seen anything strange since you arrived?
Then Daniel and Russell join them on stage. Daniel tells us contestants are bailing because the Yowie attack. Everyone gets told of the Yowie and Wild Wind. Daphne gets annoyed by the boys repeating themselves. Daniel gives us his story and a flashback of the crazy explosions over the past few months. Russell only has them stay so his favorite band, 2 skinny dudes, show up. Fred suggests going undercover as a band to hopefully get grabbed next. The Hex Girls will give them a makeover. One transition later, the gang are on stage ready to practice. Daphne spots clue number 1, stage makeup. Fred finds a footprint and points out it's sticky, like glue, being clue number 2. Jasper comes back, dissing the gang.
The new competition,
but they use this opportunity to ask him questions. The gang change and go look for clues. Fred has the bad omens and Jasper as suspects number 1. They split up. The trio go to Jasper's trailer, and the boys are told to find stuff around here. At Jasper's trailer, they go in and they see a bunch of hippie stuff. Velma finds a dark skull costume and Fred pulls out the others. Velma takes photo proof. With the boys, smoke rolls in and vampires appear, starting our song and chase.
I'm not hungry at all!
During this, they show us vampire lore of them being hurt by garlic powder, them being scared of garlic, but the vampire just eats the garlic. The silver doesn't really do anything, and they show up in a mirror. Then they finally lose them in a tanning booth, and then the vampires rise out like coffins. The boys run on stage, ruining the bad omens practice, and then the Yowie appears, snagging the bad omens. The trio show up after and point out the burning of the smoke and cotton candy smell of it. Boys tell them what they saw. Jasper rolls up and learns about the kidnapping and freaks out. Fred finds Jasper suspicious after hearing,
I should have stayed with him instead of going back to my trailer. Trailer?
Fred's just camping. Daniel tells us Russell already went home along with the other festival contestants. The boys get offered Scooby snacks to keep watch while the others sleep. They obviously don't do that. The boys run after hearing motorcycles appear, but it's just 2 skinny dudes, Barry and Harry. Daniel tells them of the kidnappings. They laugh at Shaggy saying it was they were kidnapped by vampires. Fred steps up, like a good friend, and asks,
Where have you been?
They were exploring Vampire Rock and camping up there. Jasper jumps in to become their manager. Velma finds that interesting. They go to Daniel's grandpa's place to learn more about the Yowie. Scooby goes to a tree, getting stuck in the honey and beat up by a koala. The honey looks awfully familiar to the footprint. They head out on boats and learn how to stop the Yowie.
According to legend, the only thing that can destroy a vampire is sunlight.
According to legends, grandfather.
It's believed they also fear the dingo.
Later that night, the Hex Girls perform. The Yowie appears once again, and Velma snaps a photo of the vamps, and the Hex Girls get taken. Fred comes up with a plan. The gang go out to find the girls. They split up again. The trio find an entrance into the Vampire Rock. In the cave, they find,
It's like an underground warehouse.
with warm equipment becoming clue number 3. Daphne finds a secret room, gets trapped in, and gets chased by Black Skull. Daphne dives into the water, helping the boys from dingo dogs. The others find the same secret room. Velma trips and finds the wild winds. She runs into Fred, and they both run and jump into that same pool that Daphne did. The Yowie appears and throws fireballs, almost hitting the boys. He sonic claps Velma to the floor, and as Fred is helping Velma, he gets blown back and his shirt comes off. The dingo dongs scare off the vamps. The sun comes out, shines on Scooby's collar, and destroys the Yowie. The other vamps come out from hiding and chase over the bridge. Daniel throws a boomerang, triggering a rope that tangles up the boys, and a net comes up, trapping the vamps. The boys drop, and so do the vamps. Fred pulls over a hose and splashes off the makeup to reveal
We'll all be 2 skinny dudes.
and Russell. Jasper explains his suspicion.
Okay. Confession time. I wasn't in my trailer because I was meeting with the Hex Girls about being their manager.
The trio pull off masks to reveal 3 other dudes. Daphne puts on some makeup to show it was the Wild Winds. We get flashbacks of and told reasonings. The other contestants were sent to a great burial reef, but the Hex Girls didn't take that prepaid expense trip, so they were just taken to the Outback. But then Malcolm found them and they brought them back. The gang explained that the Yowie was just special effects. Later that night, the gang perform under the name Meddling Kids. Velma sings "Where Are You" intro, and the movie ends. My thoughts on this movie. I think it's a pretty good movie. At first, I barely remember this movie, so at first I really did think it was Jasper and the Bad Omens. But then after hearing two skinny dudes, I remembered. It kind of helps knowing all the suspects and all the people, because then you're reminded of who it is. Now that I'm a lot older, I found it really weird that Velma was just weirdly close to her book. And then I think this is the first time that I ever noticed that the doors open the wrong way. That was really weird. Those are the weirdest things. I also like the Yowie's design. I know Yowie doesn't even look like the Yowie. Even though it's not the lore accurate Yowie, I still think the Yowie was pretty cool. And the connections to previous movies I really liked. Like the video game where you have to find the Scooby snacks. That is clearly a Cyber Chase reference, and then the Hex Scrolls already knowing the Mystery Gang kind of tells us that it was like a connection to Witch's Ghost. Even though it's not mentioned that the Witch's Ghost was a thing. Now, with all my thoughts out of the way, let's get on to the episode from What's New Scooby-Doo? Vampire Strikes Back. The episode starts off with Thorn coming out of a coffin at Fortescue Castle. Then she starts to sing for the music video that they're recording. Then a vampire appears, scaring the girls. After the intro, Shaggy points out,
Why are we in a creepy place already? Our vacations usually start out normal and end up creepy.
Then Daphne tells us they're here because the Hex Scrolls invited them. They arrive to the castle. The gang enter as an argument finishes between the Hex Scrolls. Daphne gives another fangirl moment where she has the magazine. Thorn tells the gang of the vampire attack. Fred jumps the gun by wanting to set a trap right out the gate. Fred breaks down the trap, and Velma is the bait, and Daphne is jealous. The vampire appears and chases Velma. The trap works. Daphne removes the vampire makeup, and sometime later they tie this man to a chair, and then Owen, the new owner of the castle, tells us who the guy is. He is Steve Fortescue, the previous family who owned it. As Owen goes to leave, Fred tells them,
We just came that way. Sorry, but the bridge is out and the roads are all flooded.
so they take him to the dungeon below. They get shown to their rooms and catch up with Richfield, triggering him about the music video that's going on right now. Later that night, in Daphne's room, the vampire appears. Everyone rushes in. Shaggy and Scooby slip on some fabric, bumping the vampire right out the window. As everyone looks over to see where it went, it disappeared. They go back to the dungeon to check on Steve. He's still there. Then Fred finally says, let's split up and look for clues. The boys obviously find the castle's kitchen. They make garlic cookies and smoothies that end up on Richfield. The trio hear the Hex Scrolls scream, and then Fred breaks in and Luna catches them up.
Something's happened to Dusk. There was this bizarre flash of light. She disappeared, and then this bat showed up.
Fred then reveals a secret passageway. They go up and find a chest. Inside, they find clue number 1 being
A birth certificate.
having Stu Fortescue and not Steve Fortescue. And they're like, why did Steve change his name? Then they rush to save the Hex Scrolls that was for the music video. Then the director says he wants the vampire to strike again. And then the vampire strikes again. Everyone runs and we get our song and chase featuring the Hex Scrolls. The gang lose him by running outside to the graveyard. Fred jinxes it by saying,
There's no need to worry. We left the vampire in the castle. We're completely safe out here.
and is turned into a bat. They go back inside to do some research on the vampires. Velma finds clue number 2, supposedly being a photo of Steve in front of a mirror. The girls set up and talk about the trap and garlic. Then the boys fall on Daphne trying to get Bat Fred. Then the vampire appears, closing the doors. Fred then jumps down, having the vampire stumble back off the roof. Then Fred explains where he was. It was just in an attic. The vampire then appears back up behind the trio. Then he slips on her garlic necklace. They then tie him up and bring him to the living quarters. Daphne removes the makeup once again to reveal Steve again. But then Owen and Richfield bring in Steve. Velma then explains they're twins and their plan.
I think they wanted to scare everybody off and ruin Owen's business.
The boys join everyone with their best friend, and then they run off after learning it's not Fred. And then the Hex Girls wrap up the episode with their version of What's New Scooby-Doo. My thoughts on this episode. It's cool because I don't think any other episode has made it to where they were twins. I know they've made it to where someone wasn't on the family tree or whatever, but I know it was cool that they made it twin brothers. I also like how Velma and Shaggy point out the weird things in the episode. Like Velma's like, usually we split up first. And then Shaggy points out, usually it takes us time to get to the scary place, but we're just here. The past 3 reviews I've done on vampire episodes in a movie have been something to do with makeup. In The Lady Vampire of the Bay, I believe they removed a human's face and then put makeup on to show them that it was the girl who stole the diamonds in the first place. And then in Legend of the Vampire, they removed the makeup with a hose and then they put makeup on to reveal who they were. And then in this one, they used makeup remover to remove the makeup. I know there's a mask pull-off in our next one, Music of the Vampire. The movie starts off with a guy singing about the bayou. Then he spots us and warns us of the vampire and the jewels of the vampire bride he found in the bayou. Then he sends us back to where it all began, at a chemical plant. The gang then talk about mysteries we haven't seen, all being similar.
Remember? Rat creature, then glop monster, then snakeosaurus.
No, starting to merge.
Then the gang join Shaggy and Scooby, shivering in fear from a cockroach shadow. Then the real one appears, scaring the 4. Fred comes with
Giant roll of fly paper.
that he trips on and gets stuck in. Velma then shoots a burst of water at the cockroach. Velma pulls off the mask, does the motive as everyone else is occupied. So she suggests vacation. While on the drive, Daphne puts on some show tunes. After a little bit, Shaggy starts our first real and best song of the movie.
One thing Scooby-Doo and I are hoping for this vacation. I don't want no more ghouls or nothing scary. No apparitions giving me a fright.
They arrive to a little bat town, hitting a vampire nerd in a costume. Velma drops. They came to a vampire convention. They look at a statue of Van Helsing, then spot a vampire protest. Fred tempts the boys away from protesters with corn dogs. The gang go in and visit with Vincent Van Helsing, a descendant of Adam Van Helsing. He shows them his vampire collection, then pulls a rope, revealing Lord Valdronia. The boys get a closer look and are scared back. Vincent wants Valdronia to be free so that the family legacy could live on. They head to a show of Fang and Shans. That's where we get our second song.
It's feeding time. What's that? You hear the sound of fear because they're here.
After that, they summon Valdronia, but everyone thinks that it was an act. One of the actors tells us he was attacked backstage. Vincent gets mad at
Graham.
They go check on Valdronia as the jewels get taken. Daphne gets back into a wall and gets called Queen. Then everyone saves her. The next morning, KDTV arrive to get the scoop. The gang talk about last night and prove Valdronia isn't real. Then Lita sings a fake scenario to boost publicity.
He had come there for me, 'cause he leaped up in glee. Then he pounced and he bit me on the neck.
The next morning, the convention is packed. Campbell, the protest leader, I didn't catch the name just until he was on the news, becomes suspect number 1 4.
That guy is becoming quite the media star.
More like he's milking the situation for everything it's worth.
I think it's time we pay Mr. Provel a visit.
They go to his trailer, and it's trashed. They find other stuff saying he's running for mayor. But then Velma confronts Campbell as he's getting interviewed. They all go to run before they are caught, then suspect he's doing it to boost votes for mayor. Valdronia attacks. Daphne pulls off some fabric. The protesters arrive back to the convention as vampire hunters and storm the convention. The boys stumble on the Fang group. They run off and they find Valdronia. Shaggy thinks he got bit right in front of the hunters. They have to run off into the forest. Scooby's real loyal to his buddy, and so when they come back together, they start singing Scooby and Me with the protesters and vendor owner coming on for some reason. Vincent then cries about the shutdown. Daphne shows Fred the fabric and that it isn't old. Then Vincent says he replaced the clothing. The actors are back up as suspect number 1 for summoning Valdronia. So Daphne goes to check him out. She finds a clue being a laser projector, then gets found by
Graham.
They swing to stage and she gets a song.
What if I say I know a way to immortality?
Really?
And kidnap her. The boys wake and meet the fellow from the start named Thule. Thule tells us of the boots he made and that they were stolen by a vampire not even 2 or 3 weeks ago. With the others, they read of a wedding ritual that's happening that night. Fred gets a text from Daphne calling for help. They head out to save Daphne. Vincent gets taken. Fred catches Shaggy, and Velma calms Shaggy about the vampire situation. The ceremony starts. The gang arrive as Valdronia comes out of the water and puts the actors to sleep. Shaggy flushes Valdronia and runs to Scooby on a boat thing, whatever that thing's called, as Velma saves Daphne. The girls throw jewels to save the boys. Then he tries making them his followers. Shaggy bumps the fan, turning on, blowing away the smoke and Valdronia's costume. He flies off, but Fred catches him with some puns.
I'd say you're looking at a net loss. I think I'll raise the stakes.
Daphne pulls off the mask, then Velma removes the gas mask to reveal. Velma gives his motive.
He was trying to save Petite Chauve Ceriseville by staging a series of real live vampire events. Events tied to his latest book.
They all break down the how.
Van Helsing was in the audience when Valdronia materialized in the theater.
He used a laser projector for that. I'd wager he planted similar projectors in a museum. Looking at it now, I suspect he passed off random ancient fabric from his museum as a cover-up.
Staged his own demise in the swamp using this. A simple mechanical device he planted in the marsh.
How did he hypnotize everyone?
Knockout gas.
After everyone is taken away, the gang sing Done with Monsters once again.
I don't want no more ghouls or nothing scary.
And the movie ends. My thoughts on this movie. I've already said in another video that I love this movie. I love musicals and I love Scooby-Doo. Put those two things together, what do you get? A great time. The only thing I could go without is probably the random protesters coming in on that one song and then the owner having that full song, the full fake song of a scenario that didn't happen just to boost publicity. In other musicals, there's some songs you're not gonna like, and those are just two random moments that I don't really enjoy. And like the actors, I understand that because they're like performers. And I also like that we got an explanation of the flying rather than it just being wires, even though that they could, because the actors were using wires to fly around and somehow he was going all like that. And also, it's also a diss towards Legend of the Vampire. The design of the vampire is different, but it's also pretty cool. And I like it. I think when they were hiding from the Bang group and were found by Valdronia, that's kind of where I kind of saw that Scooby was like animated different. He didn't look like he did earlier in the movie. But I could be wrong about the whole animation thing. But the one thing I'm not wrong about is that this video needs to come to a close. Which movie did you like more? Or did you like the episode? The episode to me just it's not bad, it's just not as good as some others. And then in about 2 months, I'm going to be taking a bit more of a glimpse into the original concept of Scooby-Doo. If you don't know what that is, what type of Scooby fan are you? The original concept, I believe, was that they were a band going on tour and solving mysteries in that tour. So I'm going to be talking about episodes that could have been in that original concept. I'll probably explain that a little bit better in that video, but you have to wait 2 months for that video. So subscribe so you don't miss it, and then watch the playlist of Scooby-Doo reviews. Check out the latest video. So, yeah. Peace.